spoke to the court regarding his involvement in the Oldham County Arts Center production of Charade, July 12th, 13th, and 14th, stating tickets will go on sale in a couple weeks. Stephanie Hawkins at 5107 Ridgecrest thanked voters for coming out for primaries May 22nd and encouraged voters to participate in the general election in November. William Douglas, 4631 Heritage Manor, Crestwood, spoke to the court regarding concerns with OSEA's budget, sewer rate increase, and debt. Larry Kaiser, 3000 Maple Leaf Drive, spoke to the court regarding concerns with the idea of non-sewer customers sharing the cost of OSEA's increase in sewer rates and debt. Health Department Budget and Tax Rate Presentation. Oldham County Health Department Director Teresa Gamsky presented information relating to its 2018 ad valorem tax rate and fiscal year 19 budget and responded to questions from the court. Ambulance Taxing District. Ambulance Taxing District Board member Steve Turover presented information relating to its 2008 ad valorem tax rate and responded to questions from the court. Oldham County EMS Director Todd Early provided information on the operation and services of Oldham County EMS. Oldham County Environmental Authority Budget and Rate Presentation. Art Henson, Oldham County Environmental Authority Board member, and Ed Basquill, Project Manager for Veolia, presented information relating to its budget for fiscal year 18-19 and responded to questions from the court. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to support OSEA's budget for fiscal year 18-19 to include a 6% sewer rate increase effective July 1st, 2018, with no change in CAPEX as presented. Motion carried 6-2 on a roll call vote. Judge Vogel and the following magistrates voted yes: Tice, Greenwell, Hounds, Eldridge, and Dye. Magistrates Likens and Leslie voted no. County Administration, Payables. Motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Likens to approve the payables as submitted with the exception of invoice 36154 to Louisville Paving in the amount of $35,696.42. Motion carried unanimously. Community Business, second reading and public hearing for the budget of fiscal year 18-19. Judge Vogel presented for second reading, public hearing, proposed ordinance number KOC 18-22449 relating to the annual budget and appropriations for fiscal year 2018-19 as submitted, and the floor was open to public comment. There being no public comment, the public hearing was closed. Discussion followed. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Dye to adopt ordinance KOC 18-22449 relating to the annual budget and appropriations for fiscal year 18-19. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Tice to approve the standing order for pre-approved recurring expenses. Motion carried unanimously. Contract agreements and resolutions. Resolution for the DLG Recreational Trails Grant. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to authorize the Judge Executive to sign resolution number 01060518 relating to a recreational trails program grant through DLG. Motion carried unanimously. The Kentucky 911 Services Grant Application for Dispatch. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Dye to authorize the Judge Executive to sign the 911 Services Grant Application relating to updated public safety software for Central Dispatch. Motion carried unanimously. Committee recommendations. Road Committee Erosion Control Bond Release. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell at the recommendation of the County Engineer to release the $10,172.50 erosion control bond relating to Maples Park Phase 1. Motion carried unanimously. Parks Committee request to use courthouse lawn. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Likens to allow Oldham County Education Foundation use of the courthouse lawn Friday, September 28th for its Dinner on Main fundraiser. Motion carried unanimously. Personnel actions. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the following list of personnel actions. Motion carried 7-1. Magistrate Greenwell voted no. Animal Control to hire Matthew Furnish as part-time Animal Control Officer at $12.90 an hour effective June 6th. Parks and Recreation to hire Micah Wilcox as Parks Intern at $8.50 an hour effective June 6th. Parks and Recreation to hire Ishmael Jones as Aquatic Assistant at $7.40 an hour effective May 29th. Road Department to terminate Joe Hogan effective May 30th. Maintenance to hire Jordan Madden as Maintenance Assistant 1 at $14.90 an hour effective June 18th. Board appointments for the North Oldham Fire District. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to reappoint Tom Emanuel to the North Oldham Fire Protection District Board with a term to expire June 30th, 2021. Motion carried unanimously. Kentuckiana Works Board. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to appoint Jonathan Westbrook to the Kentuckiana Works Board, replacing Wayne Tice. Motion carried unanimously. Public comment. Larry Kaiser, 3000 Maple Leaf Drive, spoke to the court about the revenue opportunities if medical marijuana was to be legalized and the idea of utilities, internet, phone, and sewer working together to coordinate the installation of several services at once to help share costs for sewer projects in the future. Jerry Nauert, the second vice chair of Veterans Memorial Park of Directors, announced Flag Day is July 14th, and there will be a flag retirement ceremony and several upcoming fundraisers to be announced. Judge Vogel responded to public comment. Announcements. Magistrate Likens announced the 4th of July celebration at Windlemore Park with fantastic fireworks display. Magistrate Tice attended the Old Taylor Place Homeowner Association meeting with Judge Vogel. Be aware of increased number of pedestrians and cyclists this time of year. Be patient and put safety first. Magistrate Hound stated LG&E work on Ash Avenue is finishing this week, and KYTC starting the cross culvert work. Anticipate some road closure. Fire departments have collected a great amount for the Crusade for Children. Magistrate Eldridge thanked the Environmental Authority Board members for their many years of service, volunteering countless hours to serve on the board. Magistrate Dye announced the final coat of asphalt is being applied on Highway 22 at Highway 329 and expected to be complete by the end of the week. Judge Vogel stated Arts on the Green was a success and Oldham County Day is the third Saturday in July. Magistrate Greenwell announced Friday, June 8th is last day for Oldham County school students. Please be cautious of the many children out and about for the summer. Motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously, and the meeting was adjourned at 4:15 p.m.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from June 5th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. It's time now for public comment. That's the time during the beginning of our meeting when anyone from the community would like to address the fiscal court about a topic of interest to them is able to do so. I know we have a number of people here today who came expecting to find the emergency public safety meeting that was apparently canceled by the chairman. And so we apologize for that effort, but if you'd like to address the fiscal court, any of you who came would be able to do so, and we allow up to 4 minutes for each speaker. I ask each person who speaks to, when they come up to the podium, please state your name and address clearly.
Hi, my name's Steve Emery. I'm at 7100 Apple Orchard Lane in Crestwood, Kentucky, and Bob Dye is my magistrate. I wanted to report to Fiscal Court that I had a very productive meeting today with the Economic Development Committee. We discussed a plan that my wife and I have been working on for some time. It's going to require a change to the law for that to happen. The committee's asked that we refer my request to the Public Safety Committee, and I hope to do that next month and then come back and report to you that we're making some more progress. I know too that some other people are here today concerning the smoking ordinance, but I wanted you to know that this is my particular concern and what I'm working on, and that I do hope to come back to you next month with some additional information at that time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the fiscal court?
Hello, my name is Stephen Spicer. I live at 137 Court I, Copperstone Point, LaGrange. I'm 68 years old. I spent about 50 of those years smoking. When I finished last year in August, I had a blood oxygen level of about 88 to 90. At that point, the doctor had me on breathing treatments. I went just last month. My blood oxygen level is now, according to that little oxygen meter on, they put on your finger, between 98 and 99. I don't do breathing treatments anymore. I was smoking at the end about three and a half packs of cigarettes a day. I can count on the finger of one hand how many packs of cigarettes I've smoked since then. They say vaping doesn't help someone quit. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a work in progress. I'm quitting, and I'm working at it. I will continue. The vape shop that I go, Juice Box, is evidently having a problem. They need an exemption for their shop to allow people to vape inside. That's the only way we can taste the flavors that we want to try. If we have to do it outside, why have we got a vape shop here that pays taxes? I'm sorry, I'm in favor of allowing the vape shop an exemption to keep allowing them to teach. Help people like me who are trying to quit. Help us to quit, because it is working. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spicer.
My name is Keith Hadley, 2009 Clark Point Drive, Crestwood, Kentucky. I'm here to represent the Kentucky Smoke-Free Association and as well my vapor store. I have tried to follow policies and procedures, things people have told me to do to try to rectify the situation with the smoking ordinance without having the exemption. I have had meetings with Teresa Gamsky as requested and given them evidence, research, papers, everything that's new, said, here's my evidence, here's what it is, and I've explained and had these conversations. Unfortunately, I haven't had much feedback. Their feedback was, this is what we want. And it didn't matter that my business is going to be directly affected, more than likely have a 31 to 35% decline in profits, or even to help people in this county. When I moved up here, I was welcomed with open arms by Mr. Powell, and he said, this is a good thing. There's a lot of smokers here, and you need to be here to help people quit smoking. So that's always been my motto, and I've always focused on that. In order to help people, when you smoke, I don't know if any of you have, but you don't taste anything. The first thing that goes is your taste buds, so you can't taste anything, your food, nothing. So it takes a while for people to be able to wean off of being able to have a palate that they can taste these flavors in. I mentioned before, if the hazards are the nicotine, we have 0 nicotine testers. There is no nicotine exposure. There's a lot of scientific backing, but I just want to kind of express to you how it's going to affect my business. I feel in this county, Carroll County, Henry County, they are major smoking counties. We have a very bad problem here. And the work that we're doing at our shop and teaching and training people how to use the devices and to try the flavor that they find something that works for them is vitally important. You can't go to a gas station and buy the products that I sell. I don't sell the Juul product. Most gas stations do, and that's an epidemic that I am trying to fight at the state level to keep vaping products or any tobacco product out of the hands of minors. You know, I was fortunate enough to have Miss Liz Burrows come into my shop with an underage minor, with an undercover police officer, and they tried to purchase products at my shop. And it does not, they were not successful. Now, unfortunately, it does say cigarettes on there, which I don't sell cigarettes, but I was nice that she gave me a letter saying, hey, you guys did not sell to minors? Obviously not. We're the ones holding the front line so that minors don't get access to these products. And in order to train people on their devices, we have to be able to fire that coil. We have to be able to utilize that device in order to show them how to use it. It's not just about testing. It's about showing a consumer the proper way how to use the device in order for them to be successful. We're not asking, as some people have said, we're not asking to take vapor products out of your ordinance. We're asking to have a revision of what was signed to include an exemption for a vapor shop only. If you sell over 75% of vapor products, then you are a vapor shop. This does not affect anything to do with Applebee's or any restaurant, Walmart, anything, because I'm supporting this. I don't want to have vapor indoors and be a nuisance to other patrons. So I completely understand that, but it will directly affect my business. I hope you reconsider. Thank you.
My name's Tony Florence. Address is 3521 Hunters Green Way, Lexington, Kentucky. I'm a member of the Kentucky Smoke-Free Association. E-cigarettes are markedly less harmful than combustible tobacco products. Many adults believe erroneously that e-cigarettes are as harmful as combustible tobacco products, and the level of public understanding of e-cigarettes has deteriorated over time. You know who said that? That was the American Cancer Society a week ago. The level of public understanding has deteriorated over time. You know why? Misinformation. Misinformation from these Facebook experts who read things when they go on Facebook. And also, unfortunately, from health departments who are pushing their own narrative, which, for whatever reason, you know. And I'm not here to go back and forth on the science. I'm not a scientist. But when Public Health England endorses e-cigarettes as a smoke cessation device that will aid 1 in 5 smokers to permanently kick the habit, I listen. Canada listened. 1 month ago, Canada changed their stance on vaping, acknowledging it as a viable smoke cessation device with substantial levels of harm reduction when compared to combustible tobacco products. And yet, you know, here I've got this handy sheet from the health department talking about formaldehyde, metals, and acrolein, and many other things. And they're right. I mean, you can actually find this stuff in secondhand vapor. Just like you can find arsenic in rice, cyanide in apples, heavy metals in fish, and formaldehyde in pears. These things are in the things that we take into our body, but in insignificant levels that are not harmful. I mean, apples. So on that note, let me tell you a story. Last year, the CDC, Center of Disease Control, wanted to put this whole secondhand vaping thing to bed. They were like, we're going to get to the root of this problem. We're going to send out the NIOSH, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. They're the arm of the CDC that goes into businesses to make sure the stuff that you're doing will not make the employees sick, nothing harmful there. And so they went in there with their fancy machines and they found diacetyl, pentanedione, hexanedione, all these words that I don't even know what they are, but they're apparently bad things. But these levels were either well below the REL, which is the recommended exposure levels as set by the government, or they were detectable yet not quantifiable. This means with all their fancy machines and tests, all they could tell were these things were there, but they couldn't even tell me how much of it was there. It was so insignificant. Couldn't even measure them. You can measure how much cyanide is in an apple. That's quantifiable, but you can still eat apples, right? And fish and all that good stuff. And the thing about this is the CDC was so sure that there was a mistake. They went into another vape shop, another shop just like Keith Hadley's, a different one, and said, go back and test this stuff again. There's got to be an error. And so they went in, exact same results, 2 for 2. So my argument here is you hear all this stuff from the health department, and to be fair, there's accuracy there. There are these things in there, but they're not at levels that are harmful. Our government, the CDC, the NIOSH, all back this. These are studies that can be provided and aren't really subject to any other interpretation. They are clear evidence. So anyway, from the health department, we have stuff like this that are just scare tactics. You know, and the negative spin is provided by your health department is both shameful and disappointing because the products that Keith sells are products that will make people healthy versus smoking cigarettes. So why don't we just get back to letting businesses not suffer from overregulation? Let's let Keith get back to actually saving people's lives.
Thank you.
You know, I've never been a fan of the word.
State your name and address.
Sorry. Troy LeBlanc. I live right on the Oldham County line in Jefferson County in Woodmont. I'm actually in the process, I meet tonight with Eldridge Builders to build on a lot in Oldham County in Fox Run Reserve, the newest neighborhood that's being built at the end of Old Henry. Kind of question that decision now. Nevertheless, vaping, I'm not a big fan of the term vaping. In fact, Public Health England calls it nicotine replacement therapy. They've been a huge proponent of it. They've said that it's 95% safer. Some members of public health here in Oldham County seem to think that we bought and paid that. We can barely afford a full-page ad in the Oldham era. I don't know who we bought and paid at public health. Countless governments, just like Tony said, are coming out and telling their citizens that it's safer. The one common thing that all these governments have is they all pay for their citizens' health care. Every single one of them. Canada, London, or England, a lot of European countries, France, Germany, Italy, Greece. I'm the primary distributor in most of those countries. And they're all coming out and saying it is safer. And again, they all pay for their citizens' health care. Misinformation is something Tony brought up. 5 years ago, New Zealand had misinformation, and they made a countrywide ban of vaping. They banned vaping in the entire country. You couldn't buy it, you couldn't sell it, you couldn't use it. Last year, they completely reversed it, and they took out all taxes on it to make sure that it was available for their citizens. That is something you guys should do, is make sure it's available for your citizens and make sure that they can actually try it and make sure it's what they need or what the flavor that they like before they spend or they make the investment to do it. That's the hardest thing about vaping, is making the investment. It's taking the $100 or $50 or $60 out of your pocket and actually doing it. And you have people like the gentleman who spoke first, who openly say that it was the best decision he's ever made in his life. And if people can't try it, they're not going to buy it. Now, I've named a lot of countries, right? Paducah, Louisville, Lexington, E-Town. These are all cities that did the same thing as you and banned vaping indoors. Every single one of them put in an exemption for vapor stores. Every single one of them. And we can give you the language if you'd like, because we worked with every single one of them. We're not against you guys taking vaping out of restaurants. We're not against you taking it out of the grocery stores. Just leave it in the vapor stores. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Greg Troutman. I'm the General Counsel for the Kentucky Smoke-Free Association, 4205 Springhurst Boulevard, Suite 201 in Louisville. And what I'm going to talk about just for a few minutes are the unintended consequences of prohibiting vaping in vaping stores. Keith Hadley made the comment about training the consumer to use the device is one of the key things that the vape store owners do. That's important. I've defended a number of lithium battery explosion cases that resulted because the consumer didn't know how to properly use the product. They carry the batteries loose in their pocket, change or keys hit them, they ignite. Second and third degree burns on the legs and groin do not look pretty, people. I can tell you that from seeing pictures and defending these cases. I have worked with retail stores across the country to develop battery safety standards. It's all integral in the efforts of the store owners to educate the consumer. They can't educate the consumer if the device can't be used in the store. So what you may have done is traded off under the guise of public safety, creating a huge risk for these consumers that are buying the product and can't now be studied and educated about how to properly use it. You may be putting the residents of Oldham County in far more danger from a lithium battery explosion because they weren't able to be trained than you have in the minimal amount of vape that they will inhale when they're in the store. So thank you.
My name is Jason Sutton. I'm from Tompkinsville, Kentucky. I drove the 2.5-hour trip just because 5 years ago I quit vaping. I quit smoking, went into a vape shop, and honestly, if I wouldn't have been able to try them, I'd have never quit. I'd still be smoking. My kids would still be breathing it. I mean, it's just, read the science. Nobody's going to go in and pay $20 for something that they can't try and walk out with it. I mean, it's just common sense just to let the vape shops have their exemption. Thank y'all.
Well, thank you guys for hearing us today. Really appreciate it. My name is Fig Ramsey. I'm in San Diego, but I work with the Kentucky Smoke-Free Association on a national level. What I'd like to share with you is my personal story. I'm a 4-tour combat veteran. I have PTSD. The medications that are prescribed for smoking cessation with my PTSD, not a good mix. Flavors, sampling. My first trip to a vape shop, I tried 30 different flavors before I found one that would replace or otherwise substitute my smoking habit, which I picked up in Iraq on my lookout watch. By the time I left Iraq, I was a 3-pack-a-day smoker. 25 years later, thousands and thousands of dollars of patches and gums and smoking cessation courses through the Veterans Administration. Nothing else worked. But that mimicking, I believe, was very strong for me. But the flavors, being able to go in and speak to a specialist that can isolate flavors that can be suggested for my consumption that helps me remain smoke-free, because that's really what this is about. And if nothing else, I'll tell you what, it's probably saved my marriage, because my wife never smoked cigarettes, and I smell so much better now. So thank you so much for hearing my words, and really, an exemption for vapor shops, it really is the right thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Ryan Burkhead. I'm in Jeffersontown, Kentucky. I also work with the Kentucky Smoke-Free Association. Echoing the comments from Mr. Ramsey there, he touched on how important flavors are. And you think about, being a lifelong smoker, being used to that one kind of type of flavor, the tobacco, the cigarette flavor. If you really want to quit, you have to replicate that in such a way with the flavor that works for you. And being able to sample those is key to the success of actually quitting. But I wanted to touch base on another topic that we hear frequently, and that's the concern of kids, specifically kid appeal to flavors. And I wanted to state how untrue that is. We've already heard how important flavors are. Our member shops, typically the average age of our customers, of course there is some variance, but typically between males and females, ages 35 and 55 years old. That's the most common. And I'm going to be honest with you, in our member stores, 80+% of these individuals do not use tobacco-flavored e-liquid. They use strawberry, blueberry, even some candy flavors, stuff like that. There's a lot of misinformation. That's probably one of the most common and one of the most troubling that we hear. So I wanted to echo the comments of Mr. Ramsey, and this flavors are critical to the success of an individual trying to quit smoking. I appreciate your time, and please consider Mr. Hadley's exemption for his shop. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kirk Reinke. I live at 2426 Email Avenue in Louisville. Thank you for the opportunity to address the court this afternoon. I may not look old enough to say this, but I smoked cigarettes for 27 years. And 5 years ago, I was able to quit successfully with vapor technology. It took me about a week after I tried my first vapor device before I put down the cigarettes for good. Part of that success was being able to walk into a vapor shop and try flavors, try different flavors of the liquids, and try different devices to see which ones worked for me. Not every device will work for every vapor. Not every e-liquid flavor will be preferred by every vapor. For me, fruits, vanilla, custards, dessert flavors like that are what works for me and what keeps me successfully not smoking. The importance of being able to try flavors in vape shops cannot be overstated. It is essential for the success of the vapor to finally quit smoking. I do not vape where smoking is not allowed. I don't think it should be allowed where smoking is not allowed. However, it is vitally important that vaping be allowed in vaping shops to ensure the success of smokers and former smokers in finally ridding themselves of tobacco. Thank you.
My name's Matt Merrill, live at 1503 Virginia Court here in LaGrange. 4.5 years ago, I decided to make healthier choices. I was actually going to lunch, and I stopped by a store in Louisville. It caught my eye, and I went in, and before then, I'd smoked for 23 years, pack and a half a day, Marlboro Reds, and I initially tried tobacco flavors because that's, I smoked regular cigarettes. I wanted a regular tobacco flavor. It was very harsh, and it didn't make me want anything other than a regular cigarette. It wasn't until I was able to go into this specific shop and try 15, 20 different flavors that I found one that worked for me. And from that moment, I have not had a cigarette since. I think it's vital for people to quit, to have a good experience right off the bat. Because it's very easy to go back to smoking when you have a bad experience with an alternative. Giving people the option to try a wide variety of things for whatever works for them, because it's very subjective, is key to having somebody have success. And I really think that we should absolutely embrace it as a community, make sure that we keep it out of the hands of kids, but give the adults the opportunity to choose how they want to quit. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to listen to what we have to say. My name is Chris Tucker. My address is 601 Estrella Drive, Lexington, Kentucky. On the subject of a vaping ordinance or anti-vaping ordinance, this is a technology which has the opportunity to change public health here in Kentucky. We all know how many smokers there are here in this state. This is a big tobacco state. And I think we would all agree that that has a pretty negative impact on the health of Kentucky residents. This technology, it has been proven that it is a safer alternative than smoking. And I guess the best way, and my simple way of explaining things to you, is it's kind of like test driving a car. You don't know what you like until you actually have used the product, and that is what these vape stores are there for. Somebody who wants to make a switch or have an alternative, they're able to walk into one of these stores, try devices, try flavors, inside of the store with somebody there who knows about the devices and can explain them. By not offering an exemption for vape stores, we take that away. And in simple terms, it might deter somebody from wanting to come and try a product or finding that flavor or that certain device that helps them to stop smoking. On the financial side of things, if you can't try it, you're probably not going to buy it, and it's going to impact Kentucky businesses, especially here in Oldham County. So we asked for the exemption. Thank you for sitting here and listening to people talk about stuff that you guys probably don't know a whole bunch about. We appreciate it. But this is a technology that can change people's lives for the better and can help people stop things that would ultimately end their life or cause health problems later on down the road. And this trying flavors, being able to walk into a vape store and to try these things, that has a big part to do with it. So thank you guys.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else? Liz, Burrows, all right.
Thank you very much for your time today. I will be very quick. First, I want to respond. Liz Burrows, 2005 Crooked Creek Court, Crestwood, Kentucky. First, I just want to clarify the Reward and Remind program where the youth go in and attempt to purchase tobacco products. The health department has been doing that for many years. We visited 10 stores on that occasion. Last week. I wasn't actively involved in the process except planning. So I wasn't actually one of the ones that either drove the kids or came into the stores. But I love the program because what it does is it takes kids and an undercover officer. They go in, they attempt to purchase. I can count, there have probably been 3 instances in 5 years that they've successfully been able to purchase. But the best part of the program is when it's done, the officer goes back into the store, finds the clerk, and gives them a $10 gift card to Dairy Queen and says, "You are doing a great job keeping our community safe." So I'm really proud of that program. I think it's really nice to reward people, in addition to just doing their job, just to reward them and let them know that what they're doing is appreciated and affects the health of the community. So I do really like that program. We do it every year. It's funded through the state. And it's good for the kids to get to go out and be a part of it, and it's really good for the clerks to get that recognition. I want to thank you also for passing the comprehensive ordinance that you passed on April 17th that was enacted in early May. As passed, it protects all workers in Oldham County, past, present, or current and future, present and future. It creates a level playing field among the businesses in Oldham County. It simplifies enforcement, and we're the enforcing agency in Oldham County. And it also ensures that as the community changes, the protections will remain intact. With no exemptions, it assures that those protections will remain intact for the generations to come. It is a gold standard. It's recognized as a gold standard across the state and across the nation. And I really do want to applaud the individuals that have come up today and have been able to quit using combustible cigarettes. I've worked in tobacco cessation for over 10 years. I know it is very difficult. It's hard. It should be celebrated. And I understand that electronic cigarettes have been successful in helping people move from combustible cigarettes to electronic cigarettes. Their research is still out on whether or not it's effective for the majority of smokers. A lot of times it'll end up with dual use, where someone who smoked traditional cigarettes, I'm not saying all the time, but a lot of the time they'll end up using both electronic and traditional. Our ordinance, the ordinance that was passed in April, in no way prohibits people from purchasing vaping products. It doesn't prohibit them from trying vaping products. It does not prohibit them from testing equipment. We know that research is unclear as to whether or not universally they'll be seen as cessation aids. The research is not unclear that the aerosol is dangerous and that air conditioning and ventilation cannot protect one place in a business from another if there's electronic cigarette use going on or traditional cigarette use going on. Adding exemptions weakens the protections that the current ordinance allows universally. And the goal of the Oldham County Health Department is to protect the health of everyone across the board. We don't not pick and choose. It also protects the workers who have to go into those businesses and to do their job, but they don't necessarily work there. But it protects inspectors, delivery people, anybody who has to come into that business to do their job. So thank you guys for passing and enacting the comprehensive ordinance to protect all workers. We joined 6 other communities in Kentucky and many across the nation that have a comprehensive ordinance and a thriving community, or thriving business community, including some of those that have thriving vape shops in their communities. So I just want to thank you. The work on the current ordinance for the past year was extensive and deliberate, and it really did result in an ordinance that will protect all Oldham Countyans.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Underwood, 3301 Trinity Road, Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a consultant for the Kentucky Smoke-Free Association. What you just heard, I think, is problematic. I started my career before I was a lobbyist. I was a little more ethical. I was a Commonwealth attorney in Jefferson County. Tried everything from double capital murders down to shoplifting. And I'll tell you, the first thing we learn is you can't get up in front of someone and testify without providing evidence. You can't say, we're doing this to protect workers, when the vast majority of evidence, and I'm happy to hand this out from the American Cancer Association, as well as numerous other studies from around the world, from the CDC, from the London College of Physicians, which is one of the oldest healthcare companies in the world, who said this is 95% safer. And to then say that this levels the playing field, it's like saying you're leveling, when we had this conversation before with your health department, the argument was what levels the playing field. A gas station or an Applebee's can't have vaping in it. Well, great. We don't sell hamburgers and we don't sell gas. The vast majority of all the products in these stores relate to vaping. So it's not a level playing field. All it does is actually harms this one industry. And you've got someone else who's buying a lot here that wants to move to Oldham County and is second guessing that, because this ordinance is not the gold standard. This ordinance actually puts you guys above what the rest of the country is doing. Louisville tried to do the same ordinance, and after months of discussions and actual expert testimony, not just saying, well, we're unclear about the particulates. Well, all the studies that have been done actually are very clear about the particulates, and we have actual documented proof. But after we worked with Louisville for months, we came to a reasonable conclusion, and that was, in vape stores, you can actually test the product, 0 nicotine. There's no problem with people, anyone who walks into that store has to be of age. The postman walking in that store, there is no rational basis to say that he or she or any other employee can be harmed by this product. You just simply cannot say that without some evidentiary proof, and there is none. So we would just ask for a reasonable exemption, which other localities such as yourselves have given, and to allow businesses to thrive here, and actually to do the work that they're doing, which is helping people quit tobacco smoke, which saves millions and millions of dollars every year in healthcare costs. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to comment on this subject? The issue will stay before the Public Safety Committee. Again, we apologize today for that meeting being canceled. I'm not aware of why it was canceled, but Mr. Leslie couldn't be here today for some reason. I would like to ask Mr. Hadley one question, and we could discuss and talk about this indefinitely, and I don't think we're prepared to do that today. But I have heard this vaping described as a technology, okay? But it's a technology that requires people to ingest something. I'm not sure what that something is, but is that something addictive or not addictive?
That something contains as e-liquid, which has 4 FDA-approved ingredients, and it's the same liquid that they use in hospitals to administer medications. When they came up with nebulizers and that technology, they did studies to see what particulate matter would be safe for consumption in your lungs, and they came up with under 0.5 and that is the standard for medication. So there would be food flavoring, vegetable glycerin, propylene glycol, and in some cases nicotine. Now obviously if you have a current smoker who's smoking 3 packs a day, they need to have nicotine to subside that. But you don't quit smoking by just ingesting nicotine. You quit smoking to curb the nicotine addiction. From cigarettes having 7,000 chemicals, your body actually gets used to all of that bad stuff, the tar and all the bad stuff, and your body's continually trying to flush that out of your system. I usually give it a weekend rule to where I say, watch Netflix, just vape. Leave your cigarettes there. If you feel you need one, then have one, but just replace it with vaping. And I'm very successful in tailoring it to that customer. So yes, they do inhale something, but the particulate matter and the basis of the liquid itself actually helps to clear out your lungs. It cleans the cilia in your lungs, breaks up that gunk. There's several cases to where some people will experience some some phlegm, cleaning them out, and it cleans out their lungs, and then they feel better for it. It reverses, I can't say health claims, but it does help health. It does, because I was that 3-pack-a-day smoker. So yes, they do ingest the vapor, the vapor that simulates the smoke from combustible tobacco. All of the agencies that we go to for our sources of information, the American Heart Association, American Cancer Society, CDC, FDA, all of them are saying this is a good product, this is better than combustible tobacco. They're all informing our counties and our states to say, listen, this is what we need to go to. We need to stop combustible tobacco. They're in the process of trying to lower nicotine in cigarettes to stop smokers from smoking. Increasing the price of cigarettes was a great thing that Kentucky did, but unfortunately every time that I had an increase, I just paid more money for them because I didn't have anything else that would help. And like I said, sir, the main reason why I opened a store in Kentucky was to help people to quit, because I didn't have that help when I was ordering things online, and it helped me.
Thank you.
It was a very long answer, I apologize, but
All right.
do you have any more?
No, I
questions?
don't.
Yes, sir.
I don't. We'll continue to appreciate everybody who came here today and the sincerity with which you presented your arguments. And for those who have been able to, make progress from getting away from tobacco, congratulate you on that. It's if somebody was right when they said none of us sitting here have any experience with this, we don't know. We're just trying to do the best thing for our community as a whole, and that you are part of the community, other people are a part of the community. We hear to the extent that things can travel between, from your shop to the next store or whatever. I've heard something to Mr. Underwood's point that I can't repeat exactly where I've heard it, but I heard it on the radio, I believe something about vaping, and then there was a disclaimer at the end of the commercial that said this is an addictive product. Well, to someone who's not exposed to the circumstances involved with either tobacco or this product, that's somewhat, scary to hear, So we'll continue.
I'm sorry, I think Tony, because that nicotine is addictive. I think maybe Keith misunderstood your question. Tony, do you want to address nicotine?
Well, I guess if it's nicotine
Yeah, I
in
just
this
didn't want you to
product,
think that
these,
we weren't telling you. Yeah, I just didn't want you to be. I mean, the one common thing is tobacco has nicotine in it. That's the addictive component.
Right.
Nicotine in and of itself does not cause cancer. And so what we try to do with vaping is to provide people with a nicotine alternative, because that's the addictive component. They start off at a very high level depending on what their needs are. And the nice thing about vaping is you can wean it off really easily. You reduce how much nicotine is in each subsequent usage until eventually you get to a very safe or a lower point that is a much safer situation than smoking cigarettes. So nicotine is addictive, but
they're not substituting one addiction for another.
well, I mean, the end all
Or are you-
goal, and it's a self-destructive technology that we're in, because my goal is to make sure people stop vaping too, because I want people to be totally out. Nobody wants people to be addicted to nicotine, because if you bring anything into your body, and it's in general not a good idea. So what we're doing is smoking normal cigarettes and all the 7,000 chemicals is really harmful to you, but the nicotine is the component that is addictive. So what vaping does, it provides a means of bringing that nicotine into your system that is much safer, 95% safer, you see. And then once the nicotine you're taking it in through the vaping tool, you reduce how much nicotine you're taking over time until you don't need to vape anymore. That's how our industry works. We're basically driving ourselves out of business over time by taking people off cigarettes and then eventually taking people off e-cigarettes.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm sure we could discuss this for a couple of hours, but we'll stop now and refer it back to the Public Safety Committee for any further discussion. I do thank all of you for coming and for the information you shared here today. Yeah, well, you're we're going to continue on with the fiscal court meeting, but if any of you intend not to stay for the balance of the meeting, now would be a good time to take your exit. We're going to continue on now with our fiscal court meeting, and the first item on our agenda now is a presentation from the Tourism Commission. I believe Kim Buckler is here, and we welcome Kim today.
Thank you. Well, hopefully this will be short, because I know every time I come up here, I can talk forever. I have, just so you know, this is all you all have, right? Just the standardized form.
Right.
This is my backup form to all that. So if you have specific questions, I can answer specifics that are not obviously on a standardized form. Every time I do these standardized ones, it's kind of tough to fit things where they go because it's not normal, to a normal business anyway. The main thing is, the one thing we did this year was keep our tax the same. I don't know if you all recall how we left it last year. Our June tax collection isn't due to the county until July 15th. It's due the 15th of the month after the tax was collected. So the June doesn't come in until July 15th to county treasurer. So we don't even know how the overall taxes did. I can tell you the records that we have, we don't have May and June yet. They're not, May was just due a couple days ago. So we decided to base the upcoming fiscal year, when I say we, I say the Tourism Committee of Fiscal Court, decided to take the previous year's taxes, start with that and budget that for the next fiscal year, and then make an adjustment in August when the May and June taxes have been submitted. Does that make sense? So this 135.7 that you all see there, do you want me to put this on the?
You can, if you like. You just put
I
it
didn't know if I
down
was supposed to.
facing you, just like that.
So the 135.7 is the same as it was last year. We'll adjust that in August. We'll meet, we meet with the Tourism Committee of Fiscal Court and County Treasurer when all the numbers have been compiled. So as far as our revenues, that the transient room tax obviously is the main bulk of our revenue. And then we get the intergovernmental is matching funds that we get from the state, and we're given a specific amount. And why the transient room tax is so important is because, you know, the 9% sweep in state government funds took our money. So 3 years ago, when they did the sweep the first time, we had $42,000 in matching funds, and it got cut to 18. So that's our only additional funding, and we rely heavily on state co-ops for that reason, because we couldn't afford with this puny budget to do the advertising and marketing other than through state co-ops, where it's they divide that cost up between usually 10 or 15 of us. The other revenue generator that we did more or less as a write-off more than anything, just to test it out, was I do a lot of group planning. We started 3 years ago doing heavy motor coach buses, and we've got 27 in the last year that have gone through the tourism office for all different types of group tours, and those are motor coach buses. Those are not weddings and all of those. That's a completely different number. So what we decided to do is see if we could not necessarily charge for those, but as a way for us to be able to count those people when they come into the county and kind of keep an eye on what they spend when they're here. Our average tourism in the last year, our average group tour person on a motor coach spent $159 a person through the tourism office, not counting accommodations. That was a side of what they paid at their hotel. So if I'm able to get those groups that come in and I can plan their itineraries, then I will endure the cost of catering. I handle their catering, their activities, everything other than their accommodations. Then I can get that to average about $159 a person in additional revenue for businesses in the county and the tourism industry. So we put that in there as revenues. It's written out later because it's not, we don't use that to make money for tourism. We use that as an incentive because we may have somebody come for the distillery or for a horse farm tour, and that might be the reason they're coming, what we call a lure in the industry. and they don't know the other diversions in the county once they get here. So by us planning it out of our office, then we can do catering and give that to restaurants or caterers in the county. We can send them to Main Street when they might just have been to the distillery in Crestwood. So that's kind of our way to control that situation and send that around. The interest you see there is just checking account interest. Our carryover this time is going to be about $6,000. The appropriations is where it looks funny to me, being self-employed for 20 years before tourism. The operations always looks like a ridiculously high number, but in here, the operations is marketing and advertising, which is in printing, which is the bulk of what our office does, is to promote the county. So if you go through your worksheet part, you'll see how that breaks out. No salary increases. I'm the only employee as executive director, so there's no salary increase. There are no benefits of any kind. No insurance or car or allowance or any of that. It's just a straight salary. One thing on here that I noticed after the fact was in workers' comp. We do have workers' comp, obviously, but I included that if you look down further in the insurance and bonds. Last year at this time, I switched all the insurance to CAECO because it had a lot more coverage in it. It was much less expensive, too, but it had a lot more coverage for tourism commissions like drone insurance and all of those things that you come in contact with tourism with videos and all of that. But you'll see the bulk of our money, of our tax money, goes for advertising and printing. The professional services, that's just our CPA, and that's pretty much our SPGE audit once a year, and we always do well on the audit. We installed this fiscal year a phone system, which it was an awesome purchase because I'm able, if somebody calls and they're looking for distillery information or farm tour, I'm able to put them on hold and transfer them directly to each one of our attractions or the hotel from our phone system. It also, if you've ever called it, it's 222-0056. We actually have a menu, so when somebody calls, being the only person, if I'm sitting in a meeting or like tomorrow I'll be in E-Town all day in a workshop with the state, we have a phone service now that says if you're interested in the distillery, click 1. If you're interested in trains on Main or farm tours or whatever, so people can still get information they want. We also still have our live chat. But what was interesting is the 800 number that we have, all of that got transferred to our phone system. So under the new rates with that, that saved us almost 2/3 of our phone bill by once we got the system paid for. So, and it's voice over IP, and we were able to use somebody in the county to do it. Transitional technologies. Rents and leases, that's only our building. We pay $500 a month. We have an awesome deal on that. Right at the bottom of the Crestwood exit across from Starbucks. And the other portion of that is we have storage space where our trade show exhibit is. All of our cases of leftover printing is stored there. It's just a small space, and that's $66 a month. Insurance and bonds, that's $1,622. $369 of that is workers' comp. The D&O insurance and all those other insurances are $1,237.50. CNR signs, those are the brown tourism signs that are around the county. I just got a report, as a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago from State Department of Transportation that there are some that are down for whatever reason. They haven't been hit. Like when you come 524 to 42, there's one down there that looks like it's been knocked off the base. So we have a couple of those. We have to have a minimum orders on those to get them replaced because they're state signs. Graphic design, I do most of that myself. We have some, if I'm swamped, then we have somebody do that, or it might be a big project like a trade show exhibit. Web hosting and chat, that is what it is. The chat, we have the only live chat. I don't know if you all are aware of this, but our tourism website has the only live chat for a tourism office in the state. So, of course, that's normal office supplies, and our SPGE fee is $250. Just because when our budget got dropped, when it goes up to, I think, 150, I think that fee goes up to 500, so we're still down SPGE. We pay in the grants and donations section. We usually don't give money to people. We used to do that, and we couldn't get them to come back and justify what they spent it on. There were no reports back. So rather than that, we put a stop to that and said, okay, then you send us the bill and we'll pay it. So that $3,000 that you see there, every year we do the bronze historical markers for the History Center out in the community. Now, this past year we did one on the campus for one of the buildings and one in the community. So this time we're back to doing one. That's $2,500. The other $500, we're doing some nice signage like that in Pee Wee Valley to get some things going out there that they're kind of struggling. Reserve for transfer, you all asked us 2 years ago to start putting money in some type of fund for emergencies or bigger projects, so we do that. So we have $6,000 allotted to go back in there. We try to do $10,000. We've had to take some out, but $6,000 back. So that'll put us at $18,000 in the money market. Software subscription. One way we saved money last year, this fiscal year that we're in now, I tried it and it worked. We have a lot of software. We have a lot of Adobe, a lot of graphic design software, QuickBooks Online, you know. So rather than buy those software packages every year and have to pay all that money, I did cloud subscriptions and switched everything over to that. So that ended up saving us money. We have 2 software programs that were about $4,000 a year by themselves. Of course, we have no capital outlay. We have no debt. So it's pretty straightforward. So does anybody have a question about the money part?
Magistrate Dye.
Yeah, I didn't see it in here, but I'm sure you got it on your worksheet there. How much money did you bring in on the Airbnbs?
Well, we just started that, and it just passed in March. So that, but I can speak to a comment on that. Since that just got legalized in March, we've been trying to put together the process to track those. We have 3 new properties that just came on. Now they have to be done through planning and zoning first. So this next fiscal year, I say, starting July 1st, we'll have a better idea of that.
Okay.
But did that answer your question?
Yeah, it seemed like it was long ago, much longer than March, but time flies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the other question is on your audit. I know in some of the smaller SPGEs, you don't have to spend like a full-blown audit every year. You can spread it out. Is there a different program?
Not with an SPGE audit. If you're a tourism, or if you're an SPGE, then you have to have an SPGE audit every year and upload it to the.
Not like isn't there like a mini audit or something where they don't do full-blown every year because of the expense?
When they made it mandatory to have the SPGE audit, we didn't have to do another separate audit. So we do the SPGE and upload it to the state auditor's office.
Okay.
And then we don't do another audit. We've had an audit, I've been here since 2007, and we've had an audit every single year. And we've never had an issue with the audit. But I think it was 3 years ago, they made the SPGE audit mandatory.
Well,
And we just switched our CPA on here too, for that.
I know they said some of the smaller FAR districts in the state couldn't afford it, so they went to some. Can you speak to that, Chris?
I believe it's under $250,000, and it is different groups, and I don't know if tourism falls into that.
Okay,
I know the fire departments do, and it's a mini financial audit, but in talking with a couple of CPAs, they found it to be counterproductive because the CPA has to go back to the last audit and come forward. So the money is, there's not as much savings there as they anticipated in the legislation.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, I want to thank you on your award that I saw in the Oldham area.
Thank you.
Magistrate Eldridge.
Thank you, Judge. What do you anticipate as your upcoming revenue from the new hotel that's coming in LaGrange?
Each hotel typically brings between $20,000 and $27,000 a year in tax. So in talking to Karan the other day, he plans to be open in February. I tout March, and that's what's on the website. But then after a couple months, I wouldn't say that Holiday Inn's going to affect this next fiscal year budget for us at all by the time he gets up and running. And we're hoping to add at least 10 additional short-term rental properties to this and get that finalized. See how that works. But a hotel is usually $20,000 to $27,000 in tax.
So when a new hotel comes in, you don't see it greatly reduce the tax coming from the others?
No. We have the travelers to be able to handle another hotel. I don't think that's the issue. I think we'll have issues with quality standards of our current hotels, and they'll have to, as I've been working with them for 2 years, to up their game anyway, because they're worried about that other hotel. So I think the ones will fall by the wayside who need to fall by the wayside, but I think it's going to be good to have that additional competition. And on that note, Best Western, I don't know if you all know, recently sold to a lady that, where her family owns also the Valero down there, and they own the gas station on the corner in Centerfield, 22 and 53. The same family. Ballardsville. The same family that owns that bought Best Western from Sanyu. So that was March, finalized in March. They also own the property behind Burger King with a license for the Hampton.
Thank you.
Well, you all have a couple, is that all the money questions?
Yes, it is.
Okay. You all have, one of the difference in state tourism this time was to focus on culinary, which to me was really unfortunate. It really put the focus on the Shaker Village and the places that specialize in culinary destinations and have chefs. Louisville was recognized as a culinary destination, #1 culinary destination in Southern Living magazine last year. So that was such a big deal and brought so many people for our bourbon and craft beer and all of that, that the state decided to make that their focus this fiscal year, which kind of left us other people, smaller people, out. So I was struggling trying to figure out a way to be able to fit into that because so many of the co-ops are based on that. So if you have an edible magazine there, so I rolled out in April our new culinary program. So if you look at the outside back cover of that, you'll see that program. And it's one of Edible's most clicked on ads in their history, Edible Louisville. So that ad will be repeated on the inside front cover in this June-July issue. We've already had 17 placements from this ad. And what that ad does is it brings people in to the short-term rentals and the larger homes, which hold 10 to 14 people, gets them here for a minimum of 2 nights, as you'll read in that program, gets them on our farm tours, gets them out at the distillery and the brewery in Udell and downtown LaGrange and our restaurants. It's a way, we have to sell packages. So the brochure that you have there, the Bourbon Horses Trains brochure, that's what's in all the rest areas in Kentucky all the way up past Dayton. If you look, you'll see the focus. What our focus is our Bourbon Horses Trains Underground Railroad. Those are our 4 main focuses. Those are the 4 things that bring people to Kentucky, and we are fortunate enough to have them. We just have had to develop them and make them bigger so we stand out. So that's the brochure that represents us in 5 states. So you'll see in the back, there are actually packages put together. If you go to our website, you'll see packages on our website. Because as Roger Brooks said in 2009 when he came, nobody's going to come to you for one particular reason. I don't know how many of you were on Fiscal Court when he came and did the community assessment for us, and he said, don't hang your hat on the train, because you don't control it. And sure enough, you look back then, that train went by 40-something times a day, and now we're at less than 20. So we've had to develop, luckily I've been here, my 11-year anniversary was January, so we've developed these programs and new products that we have to sell to other people. So we have people that are coming in and doing a lot more things and spending 2 nights minimum. So, and on that note, in Breeders' Cup, one of the new things I've developed is 2 packages that we're going to try for Breeders' Cup. And we're going to do Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we have shuttle transportation. So anybody who comes and stays in the county, if they would like to tour the county for a day, we pick them up at the tourism office at 8:45, drop them back off at the tourism office at 4:30, but we take them to all the horse farms in the county. We have lunch on a horse farm. We go to the distillery. We go to downtown LaGrange. We provide lunch and a shuttle. So we're going to try that this year at Breeders' Cup, see how it works, and then reserve that same thing for Derby if it works. Those are $125 a person, and that includes all that. It includes us picking them up and dropping them off, and meals and everything. If you haven't heard yet, you may not have. We've been trying to schedule it in the last month. They calculated our tourism numbers from, the Kentucky Tourism does, or the state of Kentucky actually, does a huge research project every year on economic development. And Oldham County is in the top 4 in our tourism economic development numbers, in our improvements and our visitors to the county. So we will be getting an award from the state for that. We tried to do it a month ago, and we couldn't get everything planned out, so probably in August. So all of you all will be invited to that. All the state people are coming, and when I work out the details of it, I'll let you all know. I think that's it.
Anybody have any further questions for Kim? All right, thank you, Kim. I think your brochure is very well done, and I hope you get thousands of them out there. And I'm sure they'll be effective to draw attention to Oldham County and the attractions we have here. So.
Can I say one more thing? 30 seconds.
Sure.
One of the things when we did the short-term rental that you asked me to develop a process for that because it was new. So I wanted to make sure to mention that Melissa and I and Barbara with PVA, Barbara has been so helpful in helping us figure out a process to get these short-term rental properties. So that's what I'm working on. I'm doing a database right now. We've got a way that all of the listings on all the short-term rental sites should be getting a letter from us in the next month or so about the transient room tax and the planning and zoning permits, and we'll also bring Amy into it once we get that process down. So that I'll have that, and I'll come back for that, but I wanted you to know that I'm working on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda today is a presentation from the Oldham County Stormwater Management District. And we're happy to welcome Bill Douglas, and believe Scott Harris will be here to assist if necessary.
Good afternoon, Judge, Magistrates, and Sheila. As the Judge said, I'm Will Douglas, the Chairman of the Oldham County Stormwater Management District Board. I understand that each one of you should already have been provided a copy of our fiscal year FY 2019 Stormwater Management District budget, and also the condensed summary estimate results for fiscal year 2018, which is over on the overhead also. And that should be on page 5 of your packet. On May 14th, 2018, the board voted unanimously to approve the condensed estimated results that's in front of you. And I also like to acknowledge that in that vote, we also recommended that there will be no increase in the stormwater quality fee to fiscal court. The fee will remain at $33.84 a year. I got to say that's probably one of the lowest fees probably around several counties and several cities, municipalities across the state. And So we're making do with what we have, and that's what we plan to do. Included in it, are also in summary, our proposed total operating revenue is projected at $1,911,330. That amount was proposed based on the collection of stormwater fees. As you can tell, it's estimated to be projected about the same amount as 2018 at $879,500. That also includes a $1,500 bank interest income, and our estimated carryover revenue is around about $1,030,330. So $1,030,330 is our proposed carryover revenue from year to year from previous years. Our proposed total operating expenditures is estimated at $635,000. That amount was proposed based on our administrative cost, which includes CAECO insurance, our board of directors fees, our audit, and also our government special purpose government entity fee of $500 that's in that. But we also have 2 contractual services. That's with the City of LaGrange and also with the Oldham County Fiscal Court. Each LaGrange is $100,000, and the Oldham County Fiscal Court is at $525,000, which gives our total at that $635,000. At the end of, we hope, at the end of fiscal year 2019, we hope that our net reserves will be at the end of the fiscal year 2019 at $1,276,330, unless there's a necessity to allocate some of that reserves to complete identified major stormwater issues related capital improvement projects. That's pretty much what we have on the budget. It's pretty simple. I just want to emphasize that our stormwater quality fee is unchanged, and it'll remain at $33.84, which is generally placed on residents' property tax bills as an ERU, which is the equivalent residential unit for stormwater fees for the year. There are also collections that are made through, and I got to give a throw out to Stan Clark, Mr. Clark, who does an outstanding job on pursuing collection of the bills that need to come in that we send out, and he's very diligent trying to collect those fees to keep those operating revenues coming in. So I got to give him a throw out to push out on that. So as you know, also that deals pretty much with the budget, and I'll take any questions on the budget, but I like to move on to just briefly just say the Stormwater Board has as I said, the service agreements between the county, fiscal court, and LaGrange. Mr. Harris is here, our county engineer. He's also our MS4 coordinator, which the MS4 stands with municipal storm sewer separate sewer systems. So it's basically a permit through the state. We are the co-permittee. Mr. Harris will tell you that we just got probably around May, the state got approved for their permit from the Kentucky Division of Water. And also we had already sent our notice of intent, the county has, as being the co-permittee, to participate in the MS4 program. So in conjunction with the other board members, who I like to identify as Gail Cox and Tom Springer, I appreciate the hard work they provided to the board also. And I also want to give out a throwback to the hard work and professionalism of the county engineer's office, the road department, the planning department, who have shown tremendous effort and work during the fiscal year to ensure that we complied and had no violations through the state. We also just completed an audit and inspection with the state of Division of Water. As Mr. Harris passed out, and I'm sure most of you saw it, we passed with flying colors, and that was included with our annual reporting. That's a big plus, because I've sit in some of the stormwater associations and where some counties have actually received notice of violations and continue getting notice of violations for not adhering to the complying with our MS4 program. But anyway, I would like to answer any questions you might have on the proposed budget and also our condensed summary of 2018 if you have any, and if you don't, I'll like to introduce Mr. Harris just to go over some of our major projects that we have and anything else you might want to ask. But I do want to say that part of the effort that we're seeing, that we're having out there is that under our MS4 program, there are 6 minimum control measures that we have to ensure that we comply through our MS4 program. One of those is our pollution prevention and good housekeeping operations. And basically what that means is that we rely heavily on the county engineers department and the road department to implement in finding those issues out there with stormwater problems, which could be catch basins that are owned by the county or on county right-of-ways, construction of asphalt berms that maybe need to be done, cleaning out ditches that have been clogged up with trees or limbs, causing problems with stormwater runoff or pollution or illicit discharges. So I got to give a big throw out. We've had over approximately about 100 that was related this year. I know in the past somebody had mentioned that there was probably 60 or 70. I went through and counted at least in most of everybody's district, there has been something done related to stormwater improvements and relating to stormwater runoff or stormwater drainage issues or whatever in your districts. I'll throw out that also that we meet on the second Mondays of the month at 2:30 here at Fiscal Court. We've been fortunate to have attendance from the public show up at our board meetings. Very involved in our meetings and during public comment. During our public comments, even when we were discussing our budget, many of them in there, I would say almost all of them, several of them that have come pretty much to every meeting, was surprised that we didn't raise the rate. They didn't think that the budget was enough to do the work that needs to be done out there. But they understood that we need to keep our rates as low as possible for the time being and hopefully improve over the time period, building the reserves to tackle some of these major problems. But anyway, after that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Harris if you have any questions for him. If not, that ends my presentation.
Why don't we review some of the capital projects that are planned? Particularly I know we're in Settlers Point working on there now, but we've got a huge problem in Goshen.
Yes. Scott Harris, 100 Jefferson Street.
I'm going to ask you, Scott, just to try to project a little bit. I know you can.
Thank you, Judge.
It's not easy. The acoustics out here aren't that good for anybody behind you. So,
the first project is our Settlers Point Trail project. This was mandated in a court order. We were sued back in '07 to replace these culverts under Settlers Point Trail, where the Little Huckleberry Creek drains out of Harmony Dam and out of Harmony Lake through Harmony Dam. To prevent flooding of a residence there. So this project is enlarging from two 36-inch corrugated metal pipes that run parallel to each other to a 6-foot by 8-foot by 60-foot box culvert. We bid it. We opened bids. We awarded bids in March of this year. We've been waiting to actually have construction until school got out because this will close the road for about 2 weeks. So school's out. We're now moving a utility that was missed. The design for that is coming from our sanitary sewer district. We're hoping to get it any day so we can have it bid. We'd like to cut the road on Monday. Signs are all up. Detours are all set. Everybody's been notified. We're just waiting for that last piece of utility. We're going to pay for that entirely with the 80/20 Bridge Fund through KYTC and our in-kind work of our road department. Wes Williams' crews and his trucks will be hauling the muck out and hauling the fresh gravel in. That will account for our 20%. So we're not having to go to the Stormwater Board for these capital improvement monies, trying to build that fund up because there's going to be some expensive ones down the road. Not everything's $50,000. The second one is the East Dogwood Circle culvert replacement. It's a lot cheaper, but basically the same thing. Undersized pipe, going to put a bigger culvert in, waiting for school to come out once again. Detour is a little shorter, but the holdup on that is the response from the 80/20 Bridge Fund, giving us approval for our TC 20-35. It's the form you fill out that gets you an MOA with Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to do the project. You can't do any work until you have that, so we're waiting for that response. The third one is the Phase 1 Goshen project. This is Goshen Lane, the east side of Goshen Lane, and all the water that comes off the Judge Fields farm and then comes through this older subdivision of very closely spaced houses, a lot of silted in ditches, undersized pipes, a lot of hard right degree turns, causing a lot of flooding for the entire neighborhood. We've topoed it. We've run detail analysis of all the ditches. We know what storms run through it. We know what 3 particular legs are the worst parts of this. We're in the process of determining how big can we make the new pieces. So we've ordered a utility survey. What's in the area? How deep can we go? So we can start at the bottom and relay flow lines back up to the top. We hope that one to be going in the fall. The fourth one that has come up from state-ordered bridge inspections. We were ordered in February by KYTC to do a preliminary analysis and inspection of all county bridges. That's a bridge of under 20 feet long that they don't know about, they being KYTC. So we, of course, asked them, what do you know about? And they couldn't tell us. So we're looking for and driving all the roads, identifying anything over 3 feet long, anything under 20 feet long is a county bridge. This has yielded the old Zering Road Bridge, which is 1817 comes out, Cedar Point Road, and makes a hard right. If you keep going straight, an older, almost goat path, that's Old Zering Road. If you wind down through there a while, you come to a big box culvert. It's about 16 feet long box culvert. Guardrails hanging from it. It wouldn't support the weight of you leaning against it. Retaining walls have fallen in. We're trying to find someone who's a full-time structural engineer to come look at it, and I got a couple of guys that are interested. We're hoping we could just repair it as opposed to replace it. The bridge structure itself looks fine to me. It's the other pieces of it that concern us a little. So those are our 4 current, we're calling them capital improvement projects. But we have a list we're building of others. We have over almost 600 drainage complaint areas in the county. We're putting them on a map, so when we go tackle an area like Goshen Lane, we can fix as many problems as we can, get the big areas first, more bang for the dollar, so to speak. So residents call in and they make these complaints, and we go out and inspect and do a report, and we copy the local magistrate, whoever that is for that area, and they go on the map. So.
Measure Tice.
On the Old Zering Road Bridge, is there a chance that can be done before school resumes, or is that?
Yes, there is. It really depends on what we get back. Summer schedules are causing this to be a problem. We just found out about it, so it's hadn't been a lot of lead time. And with summer being our busiest time with paving and trying to get these other projects going out of school, we're just having a little bit of trouble getting it scheduled.
Magistrate Eldridge.
Do you anticipate the MOU with KYTC being done in time to get the Dogwood project done this summer?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Magistrate Dye.
On a settler's point, what was the date of that lawsuit that Judgment?
I know the judgment was December of '07.
What has been the holdup for 11 years?
I wasn't here. I don't know.
In other words, you'd fixed it if you'd been here, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, then, if it's been 11 years, why did it hit the radar now? I mean, if apparently no one was complaining.
It didn't hit the radar now. It was put on my radar in my first month. So I've been working on this for about 16,
been here how
17
long?
months. Almost a year and a half. We had to get all the permits that everybody else has to get to do something. From bat trees to filling the floodplain.
Well, I understand all of that, but I
Yeah.
mean, let's just say it took 2 years to get the permits. That'd be 2016, and that's a long time for somebody not to complain about a judgment from a court.
Oh, I didn't say nobody was complaining.
Oh, okay.
We have a lot of phone calls. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The amount of time is not indicative of the amount of effort that, or the amount of effort that went into this took a lot of time. And there's just been one complication after another, and the previous county engineer could not seem to accomplish the job. And,
I was gonna say, it's taken 11 years, it only took 7 years to build a new detention center. I mean, we're getting better, I guess.
Well, you start working with the Corps of Engineers
I
and
know.
other utilities and a broad range of people that aren't in any hurry, or at least aren't on your schedule, it takes longer than you think.
Also like to remind Magistrate Dye that the board was just reestablished less than 2 years ago. So I think based on the new board being.
Right, this was a responsibility of a prior group of people.
Exactly.
That were not under the management of the fiscal court, so.
Well, all I'm saying, if you said, Scott, you've been getting phone calls?
Yes, sir.
Well, I know if I lived in Settlers Point and I got a judgment, somebody'd been getting a phone call every day. I'm just that kind of guy.
I know those people quite well.
Yeah, thank you.
Magistrate Likens.
Thank you, Judge. First of all, Scott, you do one hell of a job. And you inherited this MS4, and these are old problems that we've had in Oldham County for the last 100 years. I mean, we're trying to play catch-up here, and until we took over Veolia's contract, we didn't have the money to go fix a lot of these situations. And now that we're collecting the stormwater fees ourselves, you can see we've got $1 million to go out there and start hammering away at this list that's 600
If I may,
projects long.
these stormwater fees were set to manage the MS4, to write the reports and do the yearly maintenance stuff. There was no intent to build a surplus budget for capital projects.
Exactly. This was
So
for
I'd like to
stormwater
pat
quality.
this fiscal court and the stormwater board on the back for creating a situation where we could have these extra funds to do these projects, which are greatly
Now that we're
needed.
handling the quality issues ourselves for a lot less money than we were spending, we've diverted the extra money that we have into fixing these problems that we've had for, like I said, the last 100 years. So thank you, Mr. Harris, for the job you do.
Thank you.
I think Scott probably underestimates the work that his staff does. I mean, because.
No, I don't.
Because, if we see the emails also as the magistrates see them, but sometimes my emails just overwhelm because there are, like I said, besides just the pollution and good housekeeping operations that must be done on one of the MCMs, Minimum Control Measure 6, they also have the post-construction site measure that they have to also work on, the illicit controlled discharge measure that they have to work on, which is the post-construction sites. His inspectors stay busy going out and inspecting those sites. And, it is a challenge to go out there to those developers, those builders, and even the stormwater complaints that come in. They go out there and try to resolve those or talk to residents or homeowners associations. And the road department, I know, probably are understaffed too, and everybody's understaffed, but they're all managing what they need to do to accomplish what the MS4 program is allotted by the state to do, and they're keeping us above water. And I think that's what,
I see what you
we want to keep the state off of us, and I think that's what they're doing. And I'm learning a lot from being on the board. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your presentation. Magistrate Logston, have a question?
Yes, Scott, back on the old Zaring project, do you know if it's going to have to be repaired or replaced? When will the engineer report be back?
I hope to know by the end of this week.
And then you'll decide what you're going to do, but you're going to try to get it done before school starts for the buses.
All right, Magistrate Hounds.
Scott, is there a way that we can get a list of the projects of the 600 that are in our district? Because in my case, I've got a couple people that call about stuff. I don't know if they're calling you.
Oh, they are.
I'm sure some of them are. But I mean, if I can tell somebody if they're calling and they're saying, okay, that is this project on the list? I could tell them, yeah, you can call and talk to the county engineer, but I can tell you that the project's on the list. I have a list right here.
We track them by address because property buys and sells all the time. If we tried to track it by people's names, you'd never know if you were repeating. So when we get a call, we ask them what you're talking about, and we pull the file up and go, oh yeah, we know all about this. Is that what you're calling about? No, it's something else. Or yeah, that's it. And the file gets expanded. So we can give you addresses.
Addresses would be fine. I mean, I can trace addresses in my district fairly well.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move along here now and do the next item. That's the bills for the last 2 weeks.
Motion to pay the bills?
Second.
Any discussion on any of them? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-1. Next item would be the budget transfers. Melissa Horn, County Treasurer.
In preparation for year end, I have 5 pages of budget transfers for you to approve. As you know, we are not allowed to take any budget line item in negative or into the red, so we move money from a line that hasn't been spent into those lines that are overspent. On these transfers, $98,000 are salary and benefit transfers, because we changed this year the way that we award salary increases. It's now spread throughout the year based on employees' event date. The budget was not prepared that way, so I have waited till we got close to the end of the year to move all of the money for the year that was necessary. So that is $98,000. Then there is a $284,000 of other lines where we need to do a transfer. The bulk of that $284,000 though is coming from the jail. There's $178,000 from the medical contract that we did not budget the correct amount. So the bulk of the 184 comes out of the jail.
I move that we accept the budget transfers as presented.
Second. Is there any discussion on them? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the resolution for the Oldham County Health Board tax rate. At the last meeting, the Board of Health presented their budget, but we've been asked to conform or comply with a requirement they get from Frankfurt. It has to do with the fact that the fiscal court recognizes and is in agreement with the public health rate tax of 2.5 cents per $100. We approved that several years ago, and there was no change, there was no increase, but they would like us to provide a resolution that recognizes that the tax rate remains the same at 2.5 cents.
I'll make the motion, Judge, that you sign the resolution for the tax rate.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? I should die.
I believe I might have heard two different words. One word I heard was that we're just acknowledging it, and one I think you said we were in agreement with the health department. We're not in agreement with them, are we?
Well,
What you said, that's what you said in your introductory sentence, and I said that didn't
yeah,
sound right.
well, it says, the resolution says, "Here, Oldham County Fiscal Court hereby approves the request of the County Board of Health for a public health tax rate of 2.5 cents per assessed property value to be included on the tax bill." So, the special purpose government entity procedure is to accept the information presented, question the special purpose government entities regarding their budget. For whatever reason, the health department is required to submit a resolution from each fiscal court in the state that acknowledges that the fiscal court realizes the tax is to whatever it is, and in our case, it's 2.5 cents. So,
I'm not arguing with you, Judge. I'm just saying I'm a little concerned about the verbiage here because it basically says require that to have fiscal court resolution every year. So please plan for the fiscal court to approve the tax rate. We're not approving this tax rate, right?
we've already approved it.
2 years ago.
Approved 2 years ago.
We accepted it though.
No, we approved it 2
So
years
in other
ago.
words, we could say, in other words, in the future, we could say no and they can't do it?
Well, I'm not prepared to go over that question right now, but I'll say that you did approve this tax rate in 2015, or 16, one or the other. It was approved. It's no different than it was a couple of years ago.
I'd like for you to table this until we get a little more clarity. My understanding on this was that,
I'm not sure, they need, well, come on, Bob. I mean, you know,
well, I'll vote against it.
I'm not going to accept a motion to table.
right.
This is something that is requirement for the health department. We're just going to throw a monkey wrench into something we don't need to. The tax has been approved by the fiscal court in at least 2015 or 16. You remember, they came to us, they had been 2 cents for 30 years or 40 years. They asked for a half a cent and we granted it. We're not increasing it at all. There's no change. So I don't think we can argue over a word. Magistrate Eldridge.
When you look at the letter that came from Frankfurt, the verbiage in it is, you must submit a copy of the enclosed request to your fiscal court, so the fiscal court may by resolution impose the special ad valorem public health tax. I think what we're approving is it to go on the property tax bill, not necessarily approving how they spend the money, but more approving the ability of it to go on the tax bill.
It's one, two, you know, it's two sides of the same coin.
Right. What it says on this letter and then what it says on this email is not the same thing.
Since that came from the state, you did this last year?
I know, but,
All right,
I mean, we can argue with them about it, but I don't think we're going to get anywhere.
I just don't, it says two different things, and I'm just a little concerned about, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
You know, you swig when you should have swagged, you know, so, okay.
The rate, there's no change in their rate, so I don't, no harm, no foul here. You know. Do we have a second on that? Or did we have a second?
I didn't hear.
Did somebody?
I made the motion, Magistrate Lawson seconded.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. Next item is the URS work order for Spring Hill Trace, Belinda Demas.
Good afternoon. This is an agreement with URS for right-of-way services for the Spring Hill Trace Sidewalk Project in the amount of $45,526. We'll use federal funds, which fiscal court accepted
last spring for this phase of the project. The city of Crestwood is providing the matching funds. The right-of-way phase will include appraisals, right-of-way negotiations, formal offers, closings, and other related services for the right-of-way that's needed for this project. And we're asking fiscal court to allow a judge to sign this agreement.
Second. Moved and seconded, I sign the right-of-way services agreement for Spring Hill Trace with URS. Discussion on it? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Now we're at item D sub 1, and that's we have a resolution here that has been proposed by our building department to, does everyone have a copy of it? They're having some problems with people getting in-ground pools inspected or declining to have them inspected. Mark Tice would like to make that presentation. I think this may be one of your rare visits to fiscal court, and considering you've had to wait 2 hours, you may be sorry that you came. But go ahead.
I'm not quite sure on procedure, Judge. Do I need to read this or?
Oh, well, go ahead. Let me read it, and
Sure.
then we'll have you discuss it.
Right.
Whereas the construction of swimming pools is regulated by the Kentucky Residential Building Code and the 2014 National Electrical Code, and requires permits and inspections to ensure compliance. And whereas it has been brought to the attention of Oldham County Fiscal Court that pool owners have consistently begun to use the use of swimming pools without the final building or electrical inspections. And whereas the Oldham County Building and Inspections Department recommends approval of a $500 additional fee for in-ground swimming pools, said fee to be fully refundable upon completion and passing of all final inspections of the pool. Now therefore be it resolved that in order to ensure final inspections are completed, Oldham County Fiscal Court hereby sets an additional in-ground pool fee. The fee is to be $500 payable to Oldham County Fiscal Court. The fee will be refunded to the permit holder once a final inspection has been completed and passed. So, Mark, that's the resolution. You want to detail the problem?
Yes, give you just a little bit of historical data. A couple of years ago, I was noticing we're issuing a whole lot of in-ground pool permits. And I'm not going out and doing any inspections. We're getting occasional phone calls. Neighbors got the pool up, no fence, using it, that type of thing. Went back, started doing a little bit of research, and we just had a real high percentage of these pools that were never getting a final building inspection, and more alarming, weren't even getting final electrical inspections, which creates a huge public safety issue. At that point in time, we spent a lot of man hours contacting homeowners, contacting pool contractors, saying, folks, we need to get this wrapped up. It's really important because we need to verify that you've got a safe situation for your neighborhood and for all the children that are in those neighborhoods. Had a lot of dragging feet on compliance, had to actually get pretty tough with some of the pool contractors, even to the point of denying them permits until you cleaned up your act and got your pools in compliance. Now here we are 2 years down the road. In addition to that, we've also tried to do a good bit of education when people are pulling their permits. You've got to get this final inspection. It's really important. We started making them diagram fencing onto it, like just pounding. This is highly important. Now, here we are 2 years later. We issued 126 permits for in-ground swimming pools in 2016 and 17. That's up to the end of calendar year for 17. At this point, I got 76 open permits that those pools have not been final. So obviously our efforts are going unrecognized. I think ignored probably is a little bit better effort, better description. Once again, of those 76 that haven't been finalized out, we don't know. We can drive to all the houses. The problem is we don't have the manpower to do that kind of stuff. I know I've got 40-something of them without final electrical inspections. So I've been at my wit's end. I had two options. Either just quit worrying about it, or we had to do something about it. And quit worrying about it, I kind of looked at everybody and said, you know what? If we prevent one tragedy, it's worth the time. It's worth the time. So at that point, this is what we've come up with. It's not something we really wanted to do. We don't know what else to do.
Magistrate Likens, no, excuse me,
Judge
Logston.
again.
Sorry.
8 years, Judge. Mark.
Yes,
Mike,
sir.
I have a question. I said Mark. Mark, I have a question. Okay, so we're just doing below ground. We're not doing above ground, because above grounds have to have electric to run the pump also. So what about the safety of those?
The above grounds, we didn't include them in this, couple of reasons. They're a real small percentage. That doesn't make them any less important. The majority of your above ground pools that we require you to permit, their height alone creates their own barrier. Okay, when 48 inches is local ordinance and building code barrier height. Just about all the in-ground pools that we require a permit for, they're already at the barrier height. There is some electric. A lot of times those get done. They're not really an issue. I'm not saying there's not some out there, but it's not the huge issue that we have with the in-ground.
I'm just worried about the GFIs on the pump.
Yeah, I can't promise you those are all correct. It just doesn't seem to be near the issue that we're having with in-ground.
Magistrate Eldridge.
I would make this motion, Judge. I had fought this in a place in Carriage Hill several years ago, and it's certainly something that needs to be carried through on. The citizen's not going to be out any money. They're going to be out $500, but as soon as they comply, they get it right back. It's just a deposit. Good faith. I'd make the motion.
Second.
All right, this is, obviously an attempt to get someone's attention. And,
Yes.
So I hope it works. Initially, they had requested a higher deposit, but I suggested we cut that in half, not go, and I think $500 is enough to require people to get their attention to participate. Mr. Likens?
I approve of this, Judge, but my question was, how much work is it going to take? Somebody's going to have to issue all these refund checks, I guess. Is that an issue with our county treasurer? I mean, in and out of...
Well, we'll just have to accommodate. Measure die.
Okay, what if they give you the check and they still don't get it done? We still have this safety issue, which the court should be equally as concerned with. I mean, I know you can't drag them kicking and screaming to your office, but
Right.
some people just, what is the, when the other shoe drops here? What are we gonna do then? I'm good with this, but
Can we send them through code enforcement?
I don't really have powers bestowed upon me through the residential code and the building code. We can take them before the county code board, and, they can be cited. And a lot of these outstanding ones right now, all these people are getting ready to get letters, tell them they're in violation, and that unless you get, in compliance, you will be cited. Unfortunately, I've got a whole lot of my pool contractors on here. These guys might have a tough time getting a permit from me here for a little while until they clean their act up, so.
the thing that, this will project us as being the big bullies on fiscal court, but it's not. This is all about safety.
Absolutely.
And we're only affecting the people that don't want to comply about the safety.
Yeah,
So
we're
it's
collecting
a
no
very
money, we're
small group
keeping.
of people that we're affecting here, but, how many times during the summer do we hear about some child, getting into a pool and everybody wonders, how did it happen? But it happened.
Magistrate Logston.
Judge, I keep going back to the above ground. I mean, what if somebody gets electrocuted from above ground and we've taken care of below grounds? Do we have any liability, John, on that? If we do it for one and don't do it for all? I'm for this. I'm not against this. I think it's a great idea.
I don't think so.
Okay. Just,
I mean, to give you an idea, in comparison to 126 in-grounds, I think we issued a total of 17 above grounds. Yeah, and I know, and I get what you're saying. The electrical inspection rate is not 100%, but it's a lot better than the building inspection rate. So, I don't think we can ever get 100% compliance, but, no, we're not discounting that that's not a valid issue.
We can follow up on, since it's a minimal number of above
Sure.
grounds, we'll follow up on those as well.
Absolutely.
Part of it.
Okay, sure thing.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. If this were to pass and before this gets entered into the official record, somebody needs to spell chief building official correctly.
Oh, I misspelled it.
noticed that as well. CHIEF.
Oh.
Magistrate Hounds.
Judge, and Magistrate Dye, when I was on Code Enforcement Board, we did have quite a few pool code enforcement issues that were brought through with fencing, building code. Mostly it was fencing, and then some of it was not having the pool covered. I don't know how they are now, but I do know in the past that
We've not had too many of them where people have complained. It's more where the homes were abandoned, and the pool covers were deteriorated, and then it
Or the
caused
fencing.
a nuisance and everything. Yeah, we had one where a fence had fallen down, so then the pool wasn't secure, and there was mosquitoes and things of that nature, so. But the revenue, or the avenue for someone not complying once they get our letter and stuff was that they would receive a notice of violation and eventually a citation if they don't comply and go to code enforcement board. So then they'd have $500 fee plus additional fines where we could lien the property.
And I don't want you to think there's that many pools out there that are completely out of compliance. There's that many pools out there that we haven't been called for a final to verify compliance. Okay.
Magistrate Tice.
Will the permit be pulled in the homeowner's, the property owner's name?
Well, it'll be pulled by whoever pulls the permit, and let me clarify something. Even if a contractor pulls a building permit, they're always identified as acting as the agent for the property owner. So the property owner is still on the hook for that permit. When Joe Contractor pulls the permit to build house on property you own, he's acting as your agent. So that permit goes with the property owner, even though it might have been pulled by the contractor. Does that answer your question?
Yes and no, but in just thinking just a moment about this, if it's always in the property owner's name, then that means that I won't get my $500 back until it's completed, not only in the pool, but in also the fence, which may not be contracted by the pool installers. So if it's in my name, it follows through that we not only do the pool, but it also makes sure that before I come forward and ask you for my $500 back, it guarantees that you get the fence, the safety guard around the pool in place.
You automatically fail your inspection if there's no fence. I just get in truck late, you're failed.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So you got
you
that
can't
covered.
pass without it.
Okay.
All right, motion made and seconded to adopt this resolution. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Road Committee is next. Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. We have a release of an erosion control and performance bonds at Cherrywood Place, LaGrange, and I'm going to let County Engineer Scott Harris take care of this. He called me and we discussed this, even though this is a LaGrange matter.
Thank you. We do handle this for the city of LaGrange and other cities in the county. We take the bonds and we do the inspections. In the case of LaGrange, they're big enough and have a really good staff. They also do an inspection, and in this case, they did inspect Cherrywood Place subdivision sections 5A, 5B, and 6 with my staff. And under the construction site runoff control ordinance, we recommend that the 4 bonds totaling $89,000 be released for those properties back to the developer.
This is in District 6, Judge, so I would make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right. Talking about performance bond here or erosion
These are
control
erosion
bond?
sediment control bonds.
We've got 2 bonds here.
There's 4 total bonds, 1 for section 5A, 1 for 5B, and then 2 for 6. The original 1 for 6 and then the enlarged amount because it was so long.
In different order in my book here. So. All right, motion and seconded to release the erosion control bonds for Cherrywood sections 5A, 5B, and 6. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
All right. Now we heard about the performance. I've got a
Yes,
performance
there's
bond in
performance
here as
bond.
well.
Here.
We just took care of all of them at one shot.
Did them both?
There was 4 of them. Scott, wasn't there 4?
He mentioned the erosion control. What about the,
Performance bond.
we got a second bond here.
5A and
All right.
5B in
Yep.
section 6. And
Yeah,
section 6.
well, there's 2 letters.
Yeah.
My bad. Yeah.
Right, 2 letters here.
Yeah. The second one is the performance bond. Same inspections by the city of LaGrange and the county engineer's office. In this case, it's 3 bonds, 1 for 5A, 5B, and for 6. These roads will be taken into the city of LaGrange road system.
Again, Judge, I would make that motion, and that is the letter that shows only 3 bonds.
I'll second it.
All right, moved and seconded that we release the performance bonds for Cherrywood 5A, 5B, and 6. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, now we're up to the personnel actions.
No.
Oops,
HR
excuse me. Magistrate Hounds has a request here, don't
Judge,
you?
at this time, I'd like to call Tina up front, and if she could explain to us.
Wait, hang on a second here. We skipped one. Do you remember?
Lake Point.
We got Lake Point here.
It was actually, it should be 2 under road committee.
I know, we
You
had.
want to do it
that
under
underneath.
HR, Judge? You want
We
to
had a third.
Okay, excuse me, I skipped one, the other one. Let's go. Tina's next.
Okay.
All right.
Lord have mercy.
Am I doing the job description?
Oh, yeah, you go ahead and do the job description.
Okay. Before you today is the job description for Assistant Planning Director for the Planning and Development Services Department. I went through HR committee. The salary grade is a 36, and all the duties are listed here. This would be the second in charge down there in the planning department.
Judge, I'd like to make that recommendation. We accept this job description.
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion regarding the new job description for Assistant Planning Director? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is a biometric screening agreement. We would like to have a company come in called On-Site Health Solutions to do our biometric screening this year for the employees. It's not going to cost the county any money. They would file the claim with Humana to help us get to our silver status for the Go 365 wellness program, so we can have everyone with their biometric screening by August 1st.
Judge, I'd like to ask you if you would sign this biometric screening agreement, please.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion here regarding what this is? It's essentially a physical examination of your well-being, correct?
Right, biometric.
With blood test and.
Right.
Okay.
Cholesterol.
Cholesterol.
We've done all this before.
We have.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get employees to learn as much about themselves as we can here. It
Right.
doesn't cost anything, so. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So then the personnel actions that we have today.
Now,
Wait.
You getting
now,
bumped?
Oh, my goodness.
now Magistrate Hounds is going to have his chance to talk about the Lake Point subdivision.
Judge, this was brought to the road committee at the last meeting that we had before the last fiscal court. And this is a guardrail project that the residents of Lake Point subdivision brought to our attention and have asked that we work with them to replace the guardrail. The road committee approved with the approval of the Lake Point Homeowners Association that we would pay for 50% and they would pay for 50% of a post and rope, or rope and post guardrail system. And I don't know why we don't have the amount on here. It's memory serves, it's about $7,600 total cost.
Okay.
So our fee would be, our portion would be half of that $7,600.
3,800 thereabouts, okay. Who is going to take care of the labor on this?
They received bids from 3 different organizations, and it would be done by an outside vendor, but we have to provide them with, Scott, if you can help me with the terminology, because it's on, portions of it are on the county right-of-way. We have to allow them permission to work on the county right-of-way. Am I saying that correctly?
When you brought this to road committee and asked me to write the document, and our attorney has looked it over and said it was fine, it was written such that they would find a contractor and they would get all the material and they would do all the labor. And at the end, when the road committee was satisfied, then we would pay for 50%. So, and we would grant them access. We haven't looked. Nobody's made an official determination. Is it in right-of-way or is it on private property or does it cross the line? We didn't look, and we weren't going to, as I understand it, we weren't planning on charging them a permit fee or any kind of encroachment or anything like that.
We're trying to, we feel like this is a good means to get the project completed, benefiting both parties involved. There's a good chance that some of the is on the county right-of-way, and there's a good chance that some of it's on private property. It's probably not worth the expense to go through and do all the surveying work for a $7,600 project.
When we're going to do it anyway, and the only difference is a permit.
Right.
Which we're going to waive the fee on anyway, so.
All right, Magistrate Greenwell, the road committee satisfied with this?
Yes, Judge, we are. We voted to go ahead with this project.
Okay. Did we have a motion second here?
I make the motion, Judge.
And I'll second it.
All right. Is there any further discussion on pairing with Lake Point to put this barrier back up? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Now, Ms. Schaaf, it's your chance to come before the fiscal court again and see if you can get everybody to agree here.
Okay, we have some personnel actions at the Parks and Rec Department. We have some new hires for lifeguard and the concession workers as listed here. We have Catherine Baines at $8.84 an hour, Ella LeClaire, Olivia Farrell at $8.59 an hour, Edward Lentz, Julie Jacknuck, Jakuniak, Wendy Catarino Hernandez, and Michaela Catherson, all as concession workers for $7.40 an hour, and they all start tomorrow.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Judge, I have a question. Are we fully staffed now at the pool?
I believe so, yes,
Okay.
for now.
I'm going to take the next one myself here. I'm very happy to recommend for promotion to Assistant Planning Director, Amy Elvey, who's done an excellent job in our planning department, has taken a lot of pressure off Jim Urban and taken it on her own shoulders. And as those of you who know, I'm here 7 days a week, on Saturdays and Sundays, and I've come in many Sundays and found Amy at her desk working and taking care of additional problems, particularly when we were shorthanded because one of our staff was injured. She took a tremendous amount of that to herself and has done an excellent job. So I'm very happy to recommend Amy as Assistant Planning Director at $51,129.92. All right, motion made and seconded. Any discussion here? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Congratulations. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, now I get the bad news. Megan is resigning. Megan Cray from Planning and Development. She's resigning effective June 29th.
Motion made to accept the,
I'll make that motion, Judge.
all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, and we wish Megan the best of luck in the future. I think she's,
So then the next order of business is a transfer for Jennifer Shields. We just hired her as the admin person down there in Planning and Zoning, and Planning and Development. Because of Megan leaving, she's going to be now the permit clerk. And that would be effective, at the same pay, effective the 25th of June. And then we have the new hire, Lori Nunn, for Administrative Assistant 2 at $15.40 an hour, and that would be effective Monday, the 25th.
In the same department?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
moved and seconded that Jennifer Shields be transferred in the Planning and Zoning and Lori Nunn be hired. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have some recommendations I'd like to make now regarding board appointments. The first appointment is to the Oldham County Economic Development and Chamber Board. This is a reappointment of Jason Morgan from Stockyards Bank to be on the board. All right, I'll make the motion and seconded. Magistrate Tice, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The next recommendation I'd like to make is South Oldham Fire Department Protection Board reappointment. This is Steve Nethery to a term expiring June 30th of 2021. I'll make that the motion. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next one, Pee Wee Valley Fire Protection Board, reappointment of Joe McWilliams to a term to expire on June 30th, 2021. And I'll make that recommendation.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
LaGrange Fire Protection District Board, reappointment of Gary Jones to a term to expire on June 30th, 2021. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Westport Fire Protection District Board, this is also a reappointment of Mike Suter. His term also to expire on June 30th, 2021.
I'd make that motion, Judge. Mr. Leslie is not here today, but I called David Pendleton, Assistant Chief, and he was very much in favor of this.
Okay. All right, is that a second or for a motion? Somebody seconded, all right. Discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ballardsville Fire Protection District Board appointment. This is reappointment of Danny Adams to a term to expire on June 30th, 2021.
I'll second that, Judge.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Now we're down to our second public comment in this meeting. Is there anybody who would like to discuss anything about that they've heard here today? I'd add, we went through quite a few appointments there. They are, I think, all men, but we do have quite a few ladies on different boards. It didn't work out that way today, although our Assistant Planning Director, Amy Elby, is also the chairman of the LaGrange Fire Department. So we do have you here, but not for a reappointment to that. Okay. All right, let's see if Magistrate Logston has any good news he'd like to share today. Well, surely you can come up with something.
You're not gonna
I
talk
know
about
you
Crestwood?
attended a conference in Washington.
You know, the Crestwood, it looks like we're about done wrapping up that project, so great turning lanes there.
Okay, well,
Only took a year.
Magistrate Dye?
Well, I'm going to bring up the turning lane there. I think it's a nice turning lane. I think it's well-deserved, and people should utilize it, and it took a little longer than usual, but unfortunately, it just did. But it was, going back to the pool thing, you know, this is the time of the year that it does get hot, and I've read in the paper here the last few weeks, we've had a small child get away out in the woods. We've had one lost in the pool. We've had one die in a car from overheat. Don't forget your pets. And of course, don't forget mom and pop who may live alone. I mean, this heat is a bad situation. And in attendance, so I mean, be safe this summer and sane and enjoy it.
All right, Magistrate Eldridge?
Thank you, Judge. Just appreciate Will Douglas and Mr. Springer and Mrs. Cox for the job they do with the stormwater. Thankless job, and appreciate it.
Thank you. Magistrate Hound?
Judge, they're continuing the work at Ash Avenue and Ashbrook Drive. The detour sign's been put up, and it's kind of like similar. Hopefully, it's not going to be similar to the road project at 329 and 22. But I've had people upset that the road is going to be closed at Ashbrook for the period of time. Once it gets completed, hopefully the drainage will be a vast improvement. I guess this is something else I want to bring up, and most of the magistrates know about it, and I was not on court when this happened, but the magistrates in the fiscal court approved the county going to an 800 megahertz radio system that mimics MetroSafe. Through a long process, we are getting closer. We're not there, but we're very close. And I want to make a couple of comments. Director Tim Keel with OCD, there has been a lot of work done to get this project where it is today, and lots of frustration to get the project to where it is today. But the end is near. I'm not going to put a date out there because every date we've put out so far has not been met. But we are very close, and this is going to be a huge, vast improvement for all the county services to be able to communicate on one radio system and be able to communicate in about 95% or so of the county, whereas the system we're on today is somewhere in the low 80s. So it's going to be a vast improvement. That kudos to the court when they approved financing and putting that system in.
It was a big step, but I'm really glad we took it.
I'm very grateful.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. I know to the viewing public, it looks like we zipped through some of these appointments just helter-skelter, but in the case of my appointee to Ballardsville, I was notified of it 4 weeks ago. The request is made of the judge. I know the young man, well, he's not as young as he used to be, but anyway, he's very capable, and it's a reappointment. He does a good job, and Magistrate Eldridge, to his credit, asked the chief of the Westport Fire Department about that appointee, and so I just hope everybody follows through and does that and knows who's being appointed. I believe we all do, but I just wanted to make that point clear.
Right, Magistrate Tice.
Follow up on that, I know Jason Morgan and Gary Jones well and personally, so going forward, that's all I have. Thank you.
Magistrate Likens.
Thank you, Judge. I just want to say thanks to all the board members that Oldham County appoints. I think it's 27 or 8 boards, and the judge comes up with all these people who willingly serve, thanklessly serve, and most of these are not paid any stipend at all, and my hat comes off to those people who serve.
Thank you. We appreciate them very much, and we try to show our appreciation from time to time.
One other thing.
Yes, sir.
I see that Oldham County Day is coming up on Saturday, July 21st. Will Colonel Oldham be standing in his place by then?
Yes, sir. It is coming up. It's coming. But before I say anything about that, I want to ask John Carter, did you have anything you would like to comment on today?
No, Judge.
No, okay. Thank you. All right, Oldham County Day is going to be the third Saturday in July, as it always is. We'll have a big parade, and then following the parade, we'll be unveiling the statue of Colonel William Oldham that we've been talking about for about the last 2.5 years. The statue being completed, it's going to be moved by a crane and a flatbed truck. It'll stand on top of a 3-foot tall white limestone base. The statue itself is a bronze statue, it'll be 7 feet tall. There'll be a display with information there. Next to it, we'll be inviting all of our donors to come, and as well as the public at large to enjoy the unveiling, and I hope it will add a nice feature to downtown LaGrange. We're also in the midst of setting up a webcam across the street from the courthouse. Many of you are familiar with a rail cam. A rail cam is something that the city of LaGrange put in. It takes pictures of trains coming into or leaving LaGrange from a couple different angles, but you actually don't ever look directly at the courthouse square. So we're going to solve that problem with a webcam we're going to put up there. It'll be shown on our Facebook and on our website page of the fiscal court, so you'll be able to look on there anytime and see what's happening on the courthouse square, the Arts on the Green, Oldham County Day, other events that take place. You'll be able to see from your home. You'll be able to watch the parade from home, I guess, if you so choose. But I hope people will come to the parade anyway, and we'll be able to keep an eye on Colonel Oldham and monitor that as well with the webcam. So we're excited about that coming up, and we hope that all of you will be able to be there and take part.
What do you mean keep an eye on Colonel Oldham? Has he been known to get out about and do things that he shouldn't do, or what? Is there more to his story than what you're not telling us?
No more. He won't move once he's there, I hope.
I mean, he'd be hard to miss, 7 foot tall.
I just hope he doesn't. If anybody comes along and tries to add extra decorations, we'll have a picture of them. All right, well, it's been a nice day. I guess it's still warm outside. Is anybody? Yeah, all right, motion to adjourn. All in favor? Thank you.